Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Raquel Martin. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, professor, and scientist. And today I will be discussing ways to manage and hopefully extinguish toxic shame. Dr. Martin here. So I talked about what toxic shame is and ways that it develops in this video. I talked about ways to recognize symptoms associated with toxic shame in this video. And now the last video in this series regarding toxic shame, unless y'all comment below and say y'all want more, has to do with ways to address it and hopefully extinguish it. And as with anything else in the psychology world, or the entire world for that matter, it's going to start with educating yourself. If you watch my other videos in the series, then you took the time to identify the signs you see within yourself so that you can address them accordingly. That piece is a huge aspect of it, and that is education, educating yourself. When you feel like something may be going wrong or you feel like everything isn't going well for you, likely you'll look up answers or signs. We always start with education and go from there because the knowledge will help you to acknowledge, and then after you acknowledge, you can address. But none of these steps come before the other. So you have the education, you've acknowledged that there are significant things that resonate with you. Watching the other videos, you're nodding, you're like, this is me, that's not me, but this is me, and that is, right? Now, this may be a difficult part because this is a hard part for me when I'm working in therapy overall, but when you see the signs and the symptoms, now is not the time to start speaking to yourself poorly, speaking negatively to yourself. This is not a time to judge for having a justified reaction to difficult situations, because that's what toxic shame is. It is a justified reaction to a negative, harmful, maladaptive environment that constantly made you feel as though you weren't worthy. If you broke your leg, would you feel bad that you were in pain? No. I hope the answer is no. If the answer is not no, that's going to be another session. But I say this to say, we're going to start there. We start with the education, and this is going to be hard to not judge yourself harshly, but that's what everything builds off of. It may help, I sometimes recommend, to put the word justified before the emotions that you are stating so that you feel more validated. And it may feel silly, but saying like, I am experiencing justified anger. I am experiencing justified sadness. I want you to get used to acknowledging that your feelings are a natural and justified response to what has happened to you, what environment that you were forced to be in. And this may be tough because as we stay in this stage, the goal is to observe the feeling. It's not to come up with a solution to that feeling. It's not to identify ways to resolve or get over the feeling quickly. It's observe the thoughts, observe the bodily reaction, observe how long it takes for you to come down from that reaction, observe how long the emotional residue is present, observe if you notice certain times when the reaction comes up more than others, certain people you're around, certain times of day, certain times of the year. And it may help with this piece to write it down for later, or write a voice memo, because not write a voice memo, do a voice memo, because everyone doesn't like writing. And some people really like to keep records of their journey that way to see how much they have progressed. So that is the first part, education and observing, not solving, not judging, just being aware of the fact that the shame is something that's present in you, and identifying the fact that that is a justified response to what you have been through, and identifying the fact that that is okay, and then moving forward to the next step. Next, when it comes down to it, you need to address where these feelings are coming from, because you were not born this way. This is not a Lady Gaga moment, right? Toxic shame is the result of damaging, toxic, and negative environments. So, say I were in a session with you, I would ask about the kinds of negative thoughts that you're experiencing, and do you notice that you experience these negative thoughts around certain people or around certain environments more than others? I would also likely try to walk you through identifying your own triggers and then noticing routines, because that level of reflection and breaking things down can help you to identify solutions. Are these things that you can avoid? And if so, how do we work on that together? If not, how do we identify ways to cope with the environment or being around that person. And that is one of the most amazing and powerful pieces of therapy, in my opinion. So many times people will act like saying someone needs therapy is an insult. But it's not an insult. We all deserve therapy. We all deserve to have someone who works with you to break things down piece by piece, to collaborate with you, to becoming the best version of yourself. Not having to rush because you don't have enough time. Not having to go to the next thing because you have another task to do. To have someone who's like, let me walk you through this. Let me walk through this with you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to collaborate with you on your experience. I am going to be the expert in the room when it comes to psychology and mental health, but you're always going to be the expert on you. So I'm not telling you what the triggers are. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to collaborate with you, and we're going to work through it together. And I'm going to help you by noticing trends from the outside looking in, noticing things that you may not have brought an identity to. That is the salience of therapy. I will also say, leave a comment below if you'd like to hear more about healing in an environment that is actively hurting you. Because I think so many times we'll hear this thing where it's like, oh, just leave. But that's not always the case. Everyone can't leave that environment. So I also want to recognize that it isn't also always possible to leave that environment that's harming you, that's contributing to your toxic shame now or at all. So we may have to identify strategies to help you. And if you want a video specifically on that, please comment below, because I have no problem dedicating time to that as well. Next, we work on compassion and empowerment to act as like a fire extinguisher to get rid of the flames of toxic shame. Flames of toxic shame. What flames of toxic shame? We gonna get rid of flames of toxic shame. Wow. Anyway, you're probably used to hearing mental health professionals discuss the power your thoughts have over you. And you're just like, yes, think happy thoughts. First of all, I'm not one of those people who have that whole aspect of toxic positivity. You can think happy thoughts, and you have to come up with actions to help make those thoughts come to fruition. And you may have to get around people who be having these funky thoughts around you that are impacting your happy thoughts. But I digress. The reason why people always say to think about the way you're thinking is because your thoughts do change your actions. We start there because it's where all of your issues are housed. The more you engage with certain thoughts, the more likely you are to have those same thoughts. Toxic shame is the result of being in a damaging environment and the harm being so consistent that it is embedded in you. It's familiar to you as your own skin. It is the same thing for positive emotions and positive actions too, like compassion and empowerment. So you have to cultivate these things within yourself, and it will take time, effort, and possibly exhaust you at times. And that's okay. That's okay, because it's new. You're used to having these negative thoughts, the self-doubt, the questioning, and disparaging yourself. That's toxic shame. But if you remember in the last video, I mentioned that if you think about it like a coin, one side is shame and the other side is empowerment and compassion, right? It will feel tough because you'll have to practice it. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes ingrained in you. Practice. We're talking about practice. Practice. Comment below if you get that reference. It's very Philly. But anyway, it may seem silly at first. Do it. The affirmations may seem silly at first. Keep doing them when they feel silly. It may feel lame and tiresome to consistently stop yourself doing a negative thought spiral, because you're going to have to say, stop. I'm going to say out loud. I'm going to challenge these questions as these negative thoughts. Am I being fair to myself? When I speak to a friend like this, I'm going to say it out loud. I may say it internally, and it may feel lame. I still want you to do it. It may feel like overkill to write a letter to yourself regarding things that you're proud of and goals, or doing a daily entry of things that you're grateful for, but still do it. Still do it. Because all of these are incredible ways to practice self-compassion, and you can do that. You did not deserve this environment that embedded toxic shame in you, but you do deserve compassion and empowerment and self-love and self-preservation. That's what you deserve. So, comment below if you want a longer video dedicated to the topic of self-compassion and empowerment, because it's really important to realize that practice makes progress. Practice makes progress. If you said perfect, I need you to take that out of your vocabulary, because we said in the last video that perfectionism, the pursuit of perfection, can stem from toxic shame. So we just gonna knock that out. I don't want you to think in terms of perfection. I want you to think in terms of progress. So when you slip up, you don't feel blindsided or have to feel like you reside in that area feeling bad for yourself, because we're not asking for perfection. We're just asking for progress. If you're used to having 20 negative thoughts a day and then you go down to 15 a day, progress. I always hear people say that they're frustrated because they took 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And I totally get that frustration. That is justified frustration. And I want you to get that that's still 1 step forward. That's still 1 step forward. 2 minus 1 is 1. I mean, that's just math. So I still count it as progress. So those are the steps. Those are the things that will help you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have made it to the end of this video, I truly appreciate it. Comment below with your thoughts or future topics for series. I really like the idea of focusing on series of topics. If you want to see more of my day-to-day life, follow me on TikTok or Instagram at Raquel Martin PhD, because this video series all came from me posting a video and someone was like, a lot of people were like, we want more, okay? I'm actively working on talking slower, y'all. It's very hard for me because I get very excited. And also I just talk fast. So have a wonderful day. Remember to be kind to yourself. Also remember to be kind to yourself because it's also a way to practice self-compassion. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in with me.